Opening scene in the final weeks of World War II, as the front lines collapsed and Germany's defeat became inevitable. Thousands of civilians and military auxiliaries were gathered into temporary Allied holding camps across Western Europe. Among them was a group of German women, former military auxiliaries, clerks, radio operators, and civilian workers. Some had worn uniforms, some had not. All of them were prisoners now. They expected interrogation. They expected accusations. They expected punishment. What they did not expect was the first order they would hear. The strange command, the room was quiet when the American sergeant entered. No shouting, no threats. He spoke through an interpreter, his voice calm and direct. "Show us your feet." The words landed like a shock. The women looked at one another, unsure they had understood correctly. Some thought it was a mistranslation. Others felt a tightening in their stomachs. One woman stepped back instinctively, her hands clenched. In the German system, appearance meant discipline. Orders were explained. Humiliation was deliberate. This felt wrong. The interpreter hesitated, then asked the obvious question. "Why?" The American did not smile. He did not raise his voice. He simply repeated, "Shoes off," nothing else. Fear without understanding silence filled the room. Refusing an Allied order could have consequences. No one knew what kind. Slowly, one by one, the women removed their boots. Dust fell to the floor. Socks came loose. Swollen feet touched cold boards. No insults followed. No punishment came. Instead, something unexpected happened. What the Americans were really looking for, an American medic stepped forward. He crouched down, not aggressively, not hurried. One by one, he examined their feet. Ankles, heels, toes, some were blistered raw, some swollen badly. A few showed signs of infection that had gone untreated for weeks. The women were confused. This was not an interrogation. This was an inspection. By early 1945, Allied forces had learned a hard lesson. Many prisoners arrived already injured, exhausted, or ill, especially women who had endured forced marches, shortages, and neglect. Feet told the truth. Blisters meant long marches. Cracked skin meant lack of supplies. Swelling meant exhaustion, or worse. An American officer leaned toward the interpreter and spoke quietly. "If they can't walk, they don't go to transport." That single sentence changed everything. 2 lines when the inspection ended, the women were told to stand. No speeches, no explanations. The officer pointed to the floor. 2 lines. At first, no one moved. Then the interpreter clarified. Those marked by the medic were to step to the left. Everyone else remained on the right. Boots scraped against the floor. Friends who had arrived together now stood apart. The left line was smaller. Some women there limped slightly. Others looked pale, embarrassed, ashamed. They believed they had failed some test. The right line stood straight and silent. The officer spoke again, his tone flat and factual. "Left line goes to medical holding. Right line prepares for transport." Only then did the meaning settle in. What the lines meant transport meant crowded trucks, long journeys, temporary camps with little space and less patience. Medical holding meant beds, treatment, time. A woman in the right line locked eyes with her friend on the left. Neither smiled, neither waved. That was the last time they saw each other. As the groups were led through separate doors, something unexpected happened. Some of the women in medical holding began to cry, not from fear, but from release. For weeks, they had prepared for cruelty. Instead, they were given structure, procedure, and a chance to rest. The medical holding area was not what they imagined a prison would be. It was an old schoolhouse converted into a treatment center. Windows cracked open for air. Iron beds lined with thin blankets. Quiet. An American nurse moved methodically from patient to patient, writing notes without comment. Feet were cleaned, bandaged, treated with supplies the women had not seen in months. Some were ordered to rest for days. Others were told not to stand at all. No one asked about ideology. No one asked about guilt, only conditions. The other path across the yard, the women sent to transport experienced something different. They were loaded onto trucks before dawn, packed tightly, rations minimal. The journey was long and silent. Each stop brought new uncertainty. Those in medical holding heard the engines leave. Only then did they understand how close they had come to a harder path. At night, lying on thin mattresses, they whispered to one another, not about politics or blame, but about small things. Warm water, clean bandages, and the strange moment when everything had changed. After the war months later, the war officially ended. The camps slowly emptied, names were checked, papers signed, gates opened. The women who had once stood in two lines left in different directions. Some returned to ruined cities, others to villages that no longer felt like home. There were no ceremonies, no apologies, no explanations, just release. What they remembered years later, when some of these women spoke about captivity, they did not speak with anger, they spoke with confusion. They remembered the fear of the unknown, the silence, the waiting, and they remembered one moment more clearly than any other. "Show us your feet." At the time, it had sounded suspicious, almost humiliating. Only later did they understand. It was not punishment, not control, not judgment. It was procedure. A small, practical decision made in chaos. One that quietly determined who rested and who endured something harder. Closing reflection history remembers battles, speeches, and borders. But survival often turns on details so small they barely register. A pair of worn boots, a swollen heel, a medic who chose to look. And a war remembered not only for its violence, but for rare moments when humanity appeared without ceremony. Final lines: sometimes mercy does not arrive with words. Sometimes it arrives with a simple order, spoken quietly, at the moment it matters most.